Is it a morning or an afternoon now? Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. Let's start. It looks like we've got individuals joining in. I'm just gonna give another 3 minutes of people joining in, and then we start our lesson, our meeting. But you are welcome. All of you are welcome.
Free trial.
No.
No.
Yes, full time. Everything is full. Hello. Follow the link. You want me to add you here? Okay. Huh? Let's give it one. Right. The meeting will start just now. The meeting just start right now. One person joining in, and then we are on. Then we are on.
So we need a little bit more background.
Well, you must leave me alone so that I can work. Right. It's 6 minutes past 1. I think we can start. Ladies and gentlemen, you are all welcome to Lusatech Training Academy's first online session. Like we had already communicated with you that we are going to have 2 sessions. So this is the first session where we are going to be doing introduction to OHS as well as welcoming everyone to our study. This is ShemTrek being offered by Lusatech Training Academy. It's going to go through 3 weeks as scheduled. I'm going to send the schedule. I think some of you have received it via WhatsApp. Throughout this schedule, we do have breakdown of modules, and we will try to cover as much ground as possible so that people will get it. This meeting will be recorded, is actually being recorded. So if there's anyone who has a problem with it, can let us know so that we don't infringe on your rights. However, we are only recording it for the purpose of those who would feel that they would want to maybe listen to it later. Therefore, it will be available. If you if you have got any questions, ladies and gentlemen, please raise your hand, and then we'll be able to give you an opportunity for you to ask questions or to contribute what needs to be contributed. I am going to be sharing the slide. I'm going to be sharing the slide that we will then be using throughout the training. First and foremost, let's get into understanding the parts of this training or this course per se. If you would check, you will see that we do have topics or what do we call them, modules. We do have topics or modules that let me just dismiss this, right. These topics, I think you are seeing them on your screen right now. If I've shared them correctly, we are going to have introduction to occupational health and safety being the first topic that we are going to talk about, which is normally presented together with safety management. And then on our next day or next slot, we'll then be able to look into HIRA, which is hazardous identification, risk control and stuff. And then we are going to be able to look into incident investigation. Usually when you have done these three parts together with managing OHS, you'll be done with doing Chemtrek. However, at Lusatec, what we then did, which is very generous, I should say, we then added basic first aid, we added firefighting, we added working at heights, we also added safety file design and implementation. These are actually very important parts that we felt that we cannot just teach the entire course without adding these modules. So you bear with us that we are going to be adding those. Now, each and every student of this course will be subjected to 6 assignments. 6 assignments, yes. We call those formative assessment. So with this formative assessment, you need to pass with a pass mark of 60%, ladies and gentlemen. It has to be a 60% and above. Otherwise, if it's less than 60, then you will be asked to redo. You will be asked to redo the assignment, and we give you 3 more chances. 3 more chances of you to continuously redo your assignment until you get a proper mark that we can use. After you have actually gotten these assignments done, you will then qualify to sit for tests. These are summative assessment. So we have got 3 tests that actually cover parts. Each and every learner will be given what do we call that? Scope. Will be given scope so that you can be able to know which parts of the assessment are being questioned. All right, and then we then move on to the final assessment, which is the final exam. That will be a 3-hour exam that is quite strong. That is normally done as your last assessment. So you will have a total of 10 assessments, 6 summative, 3 tests, and 1 final exam. That's basically how we are going to run this course. There are people who are attending face-to-face. They usually attend from 11 until a few minutes before 1, and then we start here on 1 o'clock. We do an online. We are going to do the repeat again later on at 4 o'clock to cater for those who are working and who were not able to attend to us. The final module, as you can see, the final module here is safety file design. Right, this safety file design and implementation, it's not going to be examined. We added that part for extensive understanding that most of our students would want to work in construction after doing this course with us. So if you are going to be working in construction industry, you need to have a safety file. Therefore, we cannot have a situation where our learners are unable to actually do safety files. I will pause here and take questions based on what I've already said so far. Any questions? If there are no questions, can I move on to the next part? Can I move on to the next part now, where we are going now to get into introduction to OHS, introduction to OHS. Right, now we are here where we are focusing on introduction to occupational health and safety. First and foremost, we would need to break down items that we are going to be finding in occupational health and safety. You will see that we do have three parts that are of great importance when it comes to occupational health and safety. First, we would like to talk about safety, right? We would like to talk about safety and say, what exactly is safety? At workplace or at our homes where we are staying, you will see that we do have a lot of incidents that can take place at homes. Let's just talk about homes for now. You are at home. You need to make sure that you are safe. The kids, the adults, visitors, neighbors, even our enemies, they need to be safe. For instance, you cannot allow your kids to run around the house or the yard holding a knife, right? Probably you don't even send any kid to go and fetch a knife for you. And you ask yourself, why am I not sending kids to fetch a knife for me? For one reason, right? On their way back, they might be running. These kids are too energetic. And when they run, they trip. If they trip, what will happen? They can stab themselves to death. Therefore, in those situations, then we say there is a breach on safety. The kid is no longer safe. So the same scenario we are talking about at home is the same scenario that will take place at workplaces. At our workplaces, we need to make sure that we are safe. Everyone is safe. Remember, when we talk about safety, it means we are avoiding harm, right? And what exactly does bring harm towards us is the hazards. And each hazard, as identified, will carry a particular risk. Therefore, you will see the reason why then we say, oh, we need to train each other to do HIRA, which is your hazardous identification and risk assessment, right? So we are saying that we are avoiding harm to come on our way at our workplace, irrespective of which workplace, whether you are working in a factory, you are working at a shop, you are working at a construction site or a mining site. Even here in the offices where we are at Lusatec, we are bound to face certain hazards. Therefore, what is needed there is that we need to respect and understand the idea of safety. Now, safety, as we're talking, we are trying to avoid harm from coming our way. People must not be injured. People must not be hurt. People must not have broken bones, cut flesh. People must not end up fainting or whatsoever images that can happen or incidents that can happen at workplace. People even go to an extent of dying. Now, as we then put across this, we are saying that safety affects our health, because if we then go to definition of health, what exactly do we say is a definition of health? There are many components that need to be looked into for somebody to be said, you are healthy, right? You can't just look at someone and say, he's healthy. Mentally, somebody must be fit. Then we can say you are healthy. Physically, somebody has to be fitted well. then we say you are healthy. You need to be spiritually okay. That means being at peace, you and your beliefs. You need to be at par and at peace. You also have to be financially fit. So the health part is the total well-being of a human. And if we then look into total well-being, we are talking about physical, mental, financial, psychological, etc., etc., as you'd want to put them. All those aspects, they come back and affect our health. And these safety things we talked about earlier can affect our health, especially on the physical part. Therefore, we need to be aware of such. Finally, the environment is very important also, so that we can have safety, health, and environment. Environment, here we are talking about certain things that we don't really have control over. However, they do affect us. These are external factors or influences, such as natural issues, the weather. It can wake up tomorrow. We can wake up tomorrow. It could be very hot or extremely cold. Such extremities are actually a problem to our health, are actually a problem to our safety, are actually a problem to us. They can bring harm to us. And as safety officers or as people who are involved in the safety management, we need to understand the environmental issues and how do we take care of the environment and what are the aspects in the environment part that can also be of a dilemma to us. Let's move on and meet our next slide then and see how far we can go. Right. If we then check on our next part here, of course, this is the introduction of your presenter. I did not introduce myself at the beginning for good reason. I knew that at this point I will be coming back to introduce myself. Well, my name is Lamlani Moyo. I am the instructor here at Lusatec. We were here at Babanango Game Reserve, as you see me on the picture there, presenting first aid training at Babanango then. Anyway, one of the things that we are going to be extremely focusing on would be that we need to all understand the fundamentals and principles and importance of occupational health and safety, right? And we need to prioritize learning. People need to prioritize learning, which means training is quite an important part of everything in OHS. The OHS Act strictly stipulates that people need to be trained. There should be a budget to train people. We also need to be in a position where all of us as stakeholders at workplaces, we are able to understand our roles and responsibilities. We need to identify them, and once we have identified them, we need to work towards meeting them. There is always two sides to every coin. There is the side of employers, there is the side of employees. Yet both sides need to work together. If we understand our roles and responsibilities, then we are able to actually conduct risks assessment and investigate incidences so that at the end of the day, we are not found wanting. We avoid accidents as much as we can. Now, you will realize that, let me just rush to this slide first before coming back to this one. We are going to dwell much. We are going to dwell much on this act, right? The Occupational Health and Safety Act 85 of 1993, which was enacted in June 1993 there. The purpose of this act is to provide for the health and safety of persons at work, right? Persons who are coming to our work, people who are working with plant and machinery, people who are working with electricity, people who are working with anything. So at workplace, once we have got people at workplace, the OHS Act immediately takes charge, right? And remember, at workplace, we have got different categories of people or categories of stakeholders. We do have the client who happens to be the person who would have given us the job, right? We do have the client who they've given us the job. Then we also have us as employees. We are employed to come here and work, right? Then we do have management. That includes the owner, the board of what, and the site manager, all those people who are on the side of the employers, the management. We also have stakeholders such as visitors. There are people who can come to visit on our site, who can be inspectors from Department of Labor, Department of Health, or any other department whatsoever. And we also have visitors who can be our customers, people who are coming to buy or to do whatever with us. We also have visitors who are actually suppliers. For instance, if you are going to be running, let's say, a site, at some point you need a hardware to supply. For instance, build it, cash build, whatsoever. They want to come and supply. Those people are visitors who are supplying you with construction material. Therefore, all these stakeholders, they come into effect, and they become a very serious, necessary stakeholders that need to be taken care of. In this Occupational Health and Safety Act, we are going to be concerned about these sections a lot. However, each one of you out there need to know these, all the sections. You need to know all the sections. I'm sure those who have followed our link to our drive, you have met different modules, and also you have met our ebooks. One of the ebooks is an Occupational Health and Safety Act ebook, where we have made it clear for people to be able to find references, right? To find references on items that we do share. Right. Let's continue. So coming back to our slide here, we have got section 7. Section 7 talks about the health and safety policy. This policy is very important, right? This policy is very, very important in that you are then able to sit down as a company. Most of the time you would find it already there, because we are employed after these companies have started. But a company need to sit down and design what we call health and safety policy, right? Health and safety policy. You are welcome, those who have just joined us. You are welcome, those who are just joined us. Okay. Health and safety policy in section 7 of the Act, it is stipulated that a company need to design or to have a policy. A policy, remember, it's a document that you follow. This document must give you direction. So as employees, as management, as owners of companies, then we need to have a OHS policy. So safety officers, let's say you arrive at a company and you find that the company does not have an OHS policy or H&S policy. You are supposed to actually make it a point that you design it. We are going to talk about it down there when we are now talking about health and safety committees. It is one of the obligations of that committee, which you are going to be head or chairperson of, to sit down and find out that does the policy exist. If the occupational health and safety policy does not exist, then you as an officer, a safety officer, together with the people whom you are working with and management, you then need to design one and make it to come to effect. All right, section number 8 talks about the duties that the employer is expected of by the Act. Remember, an Act is a statutory body that is taken care of, or that is under the custodian of Department of Labor. they would expect that there are certain duties which we are going to be talking about pretty much soon as we go down our lesson, right? On 14, even though from 8 until 14 there are many sections there that will talk about other things which we are also going to talk about anyway, but the most important one will be on section 14, the employer's duties. While we are saying employees, employers have got duties, then employees also do have duties. So you would not be just sitting there and say, no, Mina, I'm an employee, then I don't have any duty here at company. You do have a duty, right? And we are going to talk about the duties. And you as a safety officer, you need to know all these duties so that you can be able to enforce them. Of course, section 17 talks about how the she-reps need to be appointed, right? And then once these she-reps are appointed, you would then need to make sure that you have got your committees, which are very important. And we are going to talk about how to conduct meetings in the committees and how the committees are constructed. We will talk about that. We do have a module that is typically for that. Then incident reporting. Way before incident reporting, we talked about HIRA, which is your hazardous identification and risk assessment, which is also part and parcel of our training. It is expected of you to make sure that you do that. And over and above that, incident reporting on section 24, then finally section 29 talks about inspectors. How and who are the inspectors that are going to be coming at your workplace to find out certain things. Ladies and gentlemen, any questions so far? Right. If there are no questions, let's move on and then look into why does occupational health and safety issues actually matter? Or in other ways, why do we matter as safety officers? So safety officers, we are here in existence, and why are we in existence, and why do we even matter? Right? Quite important. Why do we even matter? Right. One of the most important reasons why we even matter, or why do we need occupational health and safety officers at work, is that we need the safety and the well-being of everyone. And this is on our shoulders here as safety officers. We are bound to make sure that we ensure a safe and a healthy work environment to all employees, all stakeholders actually, and we protect them from harm. That is our job. So the job of the Occupational Health and Safety Act is to make sure that we exist. And now that we exist, Tina, our job is to ensure a safe and a healthy work environment for all employees. And that's not just a small job. It is quite a tantamount job, which we need to execute. Secondly, we work to reduce risk. Risk reduction takes place if we make sure that we have got certain items or certain things that we do, such as HIRA, incident investigation, etc. Once we have done that, it means that we now have objective proof or tangible proof that we can use to reduce risk at workplaces, reduce accidents at workplaces, reduce injuries, and reduce illnesses. And by doing so, we are safeguarding the two sides of the coin. I'll always refer to the two sides of the coin, because we have got the other side of the coin is the employer. The other side of the coin is the employee. Now that you have actually reduced the risk, you are saving our jobs as employees. Hence, it is very important as a safety officer to keep on making sure that we force people to abide or to have a safe culture at our workplaces, right? Then when we have reduced risk, we are also saving the employer, because the employer is going to pay a lot through an act that we are also going to talk about, COIDA. If these employees are going to be injured or they're going to catch diseases during or due to their workplaces, there is too much repercussions. At the same time, we are also saving the employer from closing shop. Because if the site is closed, to reopen it is not an easy thing. Those who have worked with the guys from labor, they know very well that, hey, once these people have come and closed or shut down your workplace, not easy for you to reopen. So that's another thing. Another thing is legal compliance, as I'm talking about the Department of Labor. Like in every situation in South Africa, every act has got its own custodian, right? And this OHS Act is under Department of Labor. And from time to time, we do have inspectors from Department of Labor who would come to your workplace, any type of workplace, a shop, a restaurant, B&B, construction site, mining site, wherever. They will just arrive and they would inspect. When they conduct these inspections, if you are found wanting, you will be facing the arms of the law, either penalties or even taking the legal route until you are even arrested and so on. And then finally, why do we matter? Why do we matter? We are actually very important because we create a synthesized way at work where the environment becomes conducive for production. People become productive if they have sense of belonging and if they have got sense of feeling safe. Those who have studied Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you will see that there is a layer or a segment where a person is so worried about his safety. If you are safe, then you continue in existence where you are. Therefore, employees and many other stakeholders need to feel safe. And when they feel safe, a lot then becomes good. Also, morale. People would have a better morale. They will feel belonging. They will feel liked. They feel enjoying where they are working because they know that they are safe, right? For instance, if we did not know that we are safe in the cars that we are using when we get into buses, when we get into taxis, we would not get into them. Until you feel safe, then you will continue being there. The moment you feel unsafe, you disembark and seek other means of transportation. That's just an example of many other examples where human beings would not stay where they are not feeling safe. So at the end of the day, these are four important elements that we handle as far as OHS is concerned. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are not going to comply, if you are not going to comply with the act, what exactly is going to happen? The Department of Labor guys will come and do these three things, right? They will come and give you a contravention notice if they arrive there and find that you're not complying. Or they can come there and realize that you are complying to a certain extent, and then they give you what? An improvement notice, which is a good one, because you know very well that they're going to come back a few days or so, and then they check on you, and you will be happy because you would have improved on items that they would have raised to you, right? Prohibition notice, usually it happens a lot of times when you are in construction industry, where they will arrive there, check, they find somebody's on top of a scaffold, and then they ask if that person is trained, and they say, no, this person is not trained. They say, no, this person must get down. He must stop working now, all right? Those are some of the notices that you would get. However, if they realize that you are really in total non-compliance, most of the time what they do is they shut down the entire site. They close offices, they close the workplace, and that's not good. And in some situations where repercussions are there, you might end up being in jail or facing legal fees. Any questions so far? Any questions? If you have any question, you can raise your hand. There is an item underneath there where you can actually press. It looks like a hand, and then we can be able to talk. And also there are emojis here where people feel that what we are talking is still in line. People can throw in some emojis here and there. That actually can raise my morale, or if the emoji is showing that I'm not doing well, then I might as well improve. If I'm moving fast, you can also please notify me so that I can see how best I can accommodate everyone. All right. If there are no questions, let's move on to the next part where we seek to find out more about the OHS Act. We are here in front of us here. We are going to be looking into the duties of both sides. The duties of both sides. We do have the duties that come from the employer. We have got duties that come from the employee, right? In summary, these are the duties. In summary, right? Employer has got a duty to provide a safe workplace. And once you have provided a safe workplace for people, make sure that you maintain it, right? So that's the first duty of an employer. Make sure that your workplace is safe. You would not want then to send people to go and work at a place that is not safe, or to use machinery that is not safe, or to use plants that are not safe. So as an employer, that's a situation there that you need to make sure that you comply on. Risk assessment. Regularly conduct risk assessment and identify as well as mitigate these hazards. That's a job that comes from the employer. Therefore, the employer has got a duty to make sure that he or she has appointed proper people to do this, right? At some point, they need to see if this is a huge thing. They might need a consulting firm, a consulting company that can come in and do this assessment, or actually appoint safety officers, appoint sheriffs who will do regular risk assessments and identify as well as find ways of mitigating these hazards, right? Training and offering of PPE, very important. This is an aspect you cannot run away from. Every now and then, people need to be trained. Either you are training people using the trainings that are accredited, where people are going to get certificates, or you are just doing a workshop where people are being reminded on what they already know. One thing that I always tell people when I go out to train in construction, sometimes you meet old people in construction there who have actually maybe 20, 30 years experience. And they will tell you that, look, me now I know this. I've been working here for so long. I know how to use a grinder. How would you come and teach me how to use a grinder? How? Yes, I'm not training you. I'm not coaching you to use a grinder, but I'm reminding you in case there are a few things you've forgotten, in case there are a few things that you're now taking for granted, right? So sometimes training, it's not about you coming and giving somebody new knowledge. Sometimes training is about you arriving at a workplace, bringing people together so that you can workshop them in reminding them what the necessary steps and things that they need to be doing. So you as a safety officer, you need to be aware of those people who would say, I've been in this industry for too long. I've been a site manager before. Why should I be trained on working at heights? No, you have been a site manager, but personally, as your safety officer right now, I do not have proof that you are trained. Okay, I might have proof by seeing your certificate, but yes, I also need to know that, are you reminded? Because from time to time, people forget and they take things for granted. For instance, I'll give you an example. When working with a grinder, every time when people buy a grinder, usually they remove that cover, which is a guard that guides in case there is debris from your chunks that you are cutting. They should not come to your eyes or to your body. Or in case a blade that you are using, a disc, breaks, it will not shatter towards your body. It will be covered by the guard. We always remove that guard because we are being too comfortable on using the grinder. So I might have 20, 30 years of using a grinder, but the fact that I'm now not taking care of the guard, then it means I have lost it. Therefore, it is important that I get reminded. That's the importance of training, ladies and gentlemen. We also include the issue of PPE, right? PPE, personal protective equipment. Most of us did not know much about this until the time when there was COVID and the whole what do you call it, media was PPE, PPE, PPE because of people stealing money and stuff. PPE is very important. Personal protective equipment. Long back ago, people never cared. You would use your bare hands, use your bare foot, use this and that in workplaces and industry. Now you can't. You have to protect yourself. However, PPE, we are going to talk about it at some point. It needs to be trained. People need to be trained how to use PPE. Not everyone would know how to use PPE. I always give an example of our own current sitting president, right? At some point, he was trying to wear a simple mask and could not in front of the camera. Well, it might have been just be a small mistake or pressure or whatsoever. But it is an indication that at some point, people need to be trained how to use PPE. So do not just issue PPE without training. So this is some of the duties that an employer would have. An employer would then have. Another thing again is to communicate a hazard. That is well explained in the Occupational Health and Safety Act, that you cannot keep quiet if there is a potential hazard or if there are going to be any safety procedures that need to be taken care of. Once you become quiet about it, then you are legally obliged or obligated that you are going to face the consequences. So now, let's talk about a situation, for instance, that your employees are going to be working at confined spaces. When we are talking of confined spaces, maybe they are getting inside a trench where there's not too much air, there's not too much exposure. They are getting into the mine, or they are going to be working under pipes or inside pipes. Maybe they are welding or they're bracing it and so on. Or they are working under bridges and so on. Now, we call those areas confined spaces. So if you are going to be sending your employees to a confined space, you as the employer, now you are representing them when as a safety officer or as a manager at that site. You need to communicate the hazards, potential hazards that these people are going to be facing. You can't just send these people and say, well, they will find out for themselves. That will be legally wrong, right? For instance, if you know very well that you are going to be giving somebody a machinery that is very extremely dangerous. For instance, you are working with a lathe machine, those who cut extreme metals or extreme woodworks. They use a very dangerous machine called a lathe machine. That machine can cut your hand, leg, head anytime, chopped off. Now, if you are going to be sending employees to conduct work at such or using such machinery, it will be very important that you communicate such hazards. So the section in the Occupational Health and Safety Act, as I have said earlier, talks deeper on the duties of the employer. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, make time, go to the Act and find out more about these that I've just summarized here. Moving on, we talk about the employees now side. Like I've said, that there's always two sides of a coin, right? On the other side of the coin here, it is the employee. Us, the employees, us, the laymen, us, the people on the ground. We also have our own duties that we need to follow. We also have our own duties, right? One of the most important duty that an employee has, or responsibility that he has, is to follow instruction. But mind you, I should indicate here, you need to follow legal instructions. I think we should indicate that they must be legal instructions. Why are we saying it has to be legal instructions? One important thing is that I'm not going to follow any instruction. So as an employee, make sure that you follow legal instructions. If you are given an instruction that is not legal, don't follow it. For instance, if somebody is going to tell you that, no, go on top of the roof and perform this particular thing, and you know very well that you don't have safety equipment to do that, then you can safely say, no, my leader, I'm unable to do this because it's an illegal instruction. Even when as an employer or as a supervisor, you cannot be issuing such instructions. However, you are supposed to follow instructions also on all the safety procedures that are given, either by the manufacturer of the equipment you are using or of the plant that you are using, or you are also following the ones that we have put on. For example, there is something that is known as SOPs, Standard Operating Procedures. So when we have put in that operating procedure, follow the procedure. You can't just break out and do what they usually call in Total a double up. You are not going to do a double up, because when you do a double up, it means you are taking the shortcut. The shortcut will always lead to problems. Therefore, you should take the instruction. The other thing that you should also do, you are duty bound as an employee to report any unsafe conditions. You are duty bound to report any unsafe conditions, right? And you are also duty bound to make sure that you properly and safely use PPE as correctly as was instructed, either by the manufacturer of the PPE or by the safety officer or by anyone who is giving you a legal instruction. So if you walk around and find an employee not using or utilizing his or her PPE, then there should be consequences, and we are going to be talking about that as we near the end of the training. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you are still comfortable. If there's anyone who just joined us, you are welcome. And we are here doing the introduction to OHS, one of the modules that we are studying towards GMT+2, which is your Safety, Health, Environment Management Training course. Let's see how SHREPs are appointed. How SHREPs are appointed. We talked about Section 17 of the Act, which talks about the need that we need to appoint SHREPs. Here, we need to understand that the law or the Act stipulates that the law or the Act stipulates that we are supposed to appoint SHREPs, and the appointment is made by you as a company. You then need to find ways where employees sit down, nominate, and elect through a proper electoral process, where they can elect whether they are using a ballot box or they are using by raise of hand or by just nomination and seconding. But there should be a process of properly electing a SHREP, right? However, you would find that sometimes companies would not be meeting the threshold where you are supposed to be nominating and appointing a SHREP. Then they decide to employ their own. That's where this issue of safety officers come in, right? Most of safety officers out there, they are employed because of that, because the company realizes that we are unable to meet the threshold of our employees selecting a SHREP. Therefore, we employ one ourselves, and that's a safety officer in terms of the law. Even though in terms of employment, they can call you a SHREP. But if you would check properly, you would have been employed as a safety officer, you are employed as a risk officer, or whatever the name it is. Because the law now says you would appoint a SHREP who has been selected from already existing workforce and was nominated and elected by his or her fellow employees, right? So that's the act there on chapter 17, right? Let's just look at the legalities or the needs that the Act says. The Act says that once you have got 20 or more employees, then you should, it should become a must that you are appointing a SHREP. Then, which means if it's 20 or below, you can appoint a SHREP, but it's not a must. However, there is a fine line here. Most of the inspectors that I've worked with in the Department of Labor, they would expect that immediately when you've got 3, 4, 5, 6 employees, get a safety rep, a SHREP, right? Here they are trying to protect you from meeting problems here. They are trying to mitigate situations that they are getting, even though as much as the law says 20 or more. So once you are 20 or more, you have to appoint a SHREP. And then for companies or for sites that are not highly risk, that are not of high risk, you can employ one SHREP for every 100 employees. For companies that are of high risk, then you can employ or appoint one SHREP for every 50 employees that you have, which means the moment you have 51 employees, you get another SHREP if it's a high risk. However, companies who actually have got different sites, for instance, you are in a construction company and you have got various sites that are being utilized. Others are down there doing trenches, others are up there roofing, others are on the fence, others are far away down there connecting water. In this situation, you can actually see that there is no ample time or easy means for all these departments or all these sites to communicate to each other quicker. Therefore, in this situation, what would you do? You would then make sure that you actually appoint as many SHREP as possible to these categories. Right? I've explained how they get to be nominated and then approved by the employer, and then there should be a formal appointment in writing and clearly stating what are their roles and term. Ladies and gentlemen, one thing that is very important that is very important in the line of work of safety officers, documentation and records. I will talk about this as well when we are doing a final module. But everything that we are talking about, anything that we're talking about, if there is need and way of recording it, make sure that you keep records. Hence the need of a safety file. That is why it's very important that all the times we say a safety officer must have a safety file, because we are saying that anything that you feel need to be recorded, record it, keep record, document it for future purposes, because once something happens, you are able to produce the evidence that this thing took place. Right. Now that we have moved to a situation where we have appointed SHREPs, right, the company should move on to then establish what we call health and safety committees, right? Health and safety committees, quite very important. These are situations where you would then see that you have got establishment where you have got on the other side different SHREPs from different representations that you have created. Let's say you have got 2 or more SHREPs at the company. They need to be collected, right, so that they can become part of the health and safety committee. On the other side, you also need to have management. You also need to have what? Management on the other side, so that you have got basically equal representation. However, you need to find that if you are going to have SHREPs on the other side and management coming together to form a health and safety committee, the number of management or number of people representing management must not exceed the number of people who are representing employees. In other words, there should be more SHREPs in the health and safety committee than those who are representing management, right? And these committees, we are going to talk intensively about them. Most of the times, or all the times, you as the safety officer, it is your job to establish these health and safety committees. It is also your job to make sure that you chair these meetings and as according to the way you would have established them. Right, according to the law or according to the Act, Occupational Health and Safety Act, Act 85 of 1993. I like to call it incomplete at some point, just to remind myself. Anyway, what does it say about these health and safety committees? It says that the committee meetings need to be held once in every 3 months, right? Once in every 3 months. That's the law. However, that doesn't mean that you cannot do them every month. It doesn't mean that you cannot do them every week or whenever. What they're just saying is that at least once every 3 months. So you can do as many as you can depending on the type of work and type of risk that you'll be having. Right. Record keeping should be maintained. That means you should maintain minutes, and these minutes need to be kept in the files for at least 3 years, a period of 3 years. Any questions, ladies and gentlemen? Right. The other parts of our learning is going to be focusing on risk assessment. It's also going to be focusing on HIRA. However, we are not going to be focusing or talking about them today, as I wish to end our session right now at 2 o'clock, to at least take a break and then prepare for the same session that is going to come at 4 o'clock for those who are attending late. Ladies and gentlemen, let's meet tomorrow, same time, same place, at 1 o'clock. The tomorrow's lesson, I'm sure it's going to be, we are going to be handling it from Newcastle side. We are going to be at Newcastle side in an area called Kwamtakane there. So we are going to be holding it there. However, it will be broadcast the same way we are going to be doing it here. Ladies and gentlemen, let's meet there. I sign out. Thanks. Oola. Non-Thunder Promise is getting admitted now. Who is Non-Thunder Promise? Let me just address Non-Thunder. Let me just address it before I go. Hi, Non-Thunder. Non-Thunder, how are you? Look, we just concluded the afternoon lesson. So we are going to be meeting again to do the same thing for the evening lesson. So I'm going to conclude now. I've just concluded actually. And then we can then meet at 4 o'clock where I'm going to start exactly the same lesson. So yes, I just see you've just joined right now. So I thought I should also address you on that. Okay, thank you.